Alright, budget magic time. Playing some Enchantress in Modern. And this hand's pretty reasonable. Got Arbor Elf, Utopia Sprawl, and Eidolon to hopefully start drawing cards if our stuff lives. And even a Story Circle for some protection. Not as good as Ghostly Prison, but it's a fine backup if we can cast it. Opponent passes. Alright, let's Forest and Arbor Elf. Pass the turn. Island. And, alright, looks like we're up against Merfolk, which means we're really going to want to find... We're really going to want to find Sphere of Safeties and Ghostly Prisons. Those are our best cards. So that's Utopia Sprawl on white. Play a Forest, Arbor Elf, untap, and Arbor Elf. And hopefully next turn we're going to start drawing some cards with this Eidolon. And hopefully draw us into something good. Story Circle on blue might actually be decent. There's a Mutavault. And a Silvergill, revealing a Silvergill. So our opponent has some card draw too. Well, as long as we can just chain enchantments together. There's a Courser. Good lord. Well, tap, untap, tap, and Eidolon of Blossoms draws us a card. We get a Terramorphic Expanse. So let's untap. So we can play the Courser. The problem is we can't play Story Circle then? Does that matter? Alright, that's fine. Let's just play the Courser, see what we draw. Also lets us get a land off the top, if there happens to be one. Oos. Or a Starfield. So we get to draw a Starfield, but we can't cast it this turn. And a Sphere of Safety. 1, 2. Alright, let's just Forest, gain a life. And pass the turn. Well, Sphere of Safety is one of the best cards in our deck. Island for our opponent. Here comes a Silvergill. Yep, Silvergill, draw a card. Does our opponent have counter magic? Another Silvergill reveals a Master of Waves. Well, I don't think any of this stuff is going to matter once we get Sphere down. Sphere is so good here. Another Eidolon. So 1, 2, untap. 3, 4, 5. Play the Sphere of Safety. Draw a card. Draws us the Eidolon. Sigil on top. Well, 1, 2. So now I think we just cast Eidolon for even more card drawing. Get the double draw. So Eidolon of Blossoms draws us 2 cards. Nice backup Ghostly Prison. Canopy Vista off the top of our deck gains us a life. And yeah, I think we just pass the turn. Our opponent's going to need something pretty amazing here. Right now it costs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for them to attack with a single creature. So something like Master of Waves just doesn't do much here. Like, yeah, they make a bunch of creatures and go wide, but we will win the long game. And unless they can get rid of our Sphere, which I don't know if they can pre-board, and I don't even know what they have post-board. They might have some bounce, but usually they're playing like Hurkyl's Recall to deal with Ensnaring Bridge, not so much enchantment removal to deal with Sphere. They do probably have counter spells of some kind, but it doesn't even matter now because we just get to draw so many cards. And we have a backup Ghostly Prison, so even if they do get rid of Sphere, just a Ghostly Prison means they can only attack with like 2 creatures a turn, which just isn't enough, I don't think, to actually beat us. And then eventually we either win with Sigil or Starfield. Well, this was a pretty crazy draw just because we had so much mana so quickly, thanks to Utopia Sprawl plus triple Arbor Elf. Alright, there's a Master of the Pearl Trident. Gives the team Island Walk, pumps them up. Opponent has not read Sphere of Safety. There might be a scoop here when they realize how incredibly expensive attacking is. And it's only going to get more expensive. Opponent passes. Well, we get a planes off the top of our deck, gain a life. There's a Starfield on top. So I think we start off with just Utopia Sprawl, our forest. Draw a couple cards. We'll have it add white at this point. And we can just kind of go off this turn. We have so much mana. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's lead on Sigil of the Empty Throne. Draw a couple cards. And now every time we cast an enchantment, we are drawing 2 and making a 4/4 angel. And pumping up our Sphere of Safety. So we'll untap our forest. Play Ghostly Prison. Get an angel, draw some cards. This is pretty good. Untap. And Ghostly Prison. Another angel, more cards. This is what this deck can do when it goes off. So let's see. Untap, tap, tap. And then we'll go Fertile Ground on the same land, get another angel. Draw even more cards. So we've drawn, I don't know, like 15 cards this turn. It's almost like Legacy Enchantress when it goes off. Especially when we get such a good draw and our opponent can't do anything about it. And then Ascension, another angel, draw some more cards. And it seems pretty likely that we just win next turn. So we gotta pass, do some discarding. So Terramorphic, Ivory Mask, Evolving Wilds, Plains, and at this point I guess just Nyx Fleece Ram. So I'm not sure how our opponent can beat us here. They would have to deal with both Ghostly Prisons and a Sphere of Safety just to be able to attack. And that seems pretty unlikely. And we have nearly a lethal amount of angels. And even if we don't try to win next turn, I mean, we can just play Starfield and try to win, and it would probably work. We can also just keep making angels. Opponent passes. Do we just go for the win? So we can play the forest off the top. And then I guess we play Starfield of Nyx and probably just go for the win. Get another angel. This is going to make our Eidolons 4/4s, turn all of this stuff into creatures. It feels fairly safe. I don't know if we literally just win, though. Maybe we just keep comboing off and win with angels. Can we win? We have 16 in the air. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, I don't think we can just win here, honestly. So I think we're just going to attack with the angels and keep comboing off. Unless our opponent just scoops. Alright, so we get to draw. Then we untap. Tap. Play another Sphere of Safety. Get an angel. Draw some cards. Drawing all our lands now. Let's Ghostly Prison. Get an angel. Draw some cards. Look at this board. So much stuff. We draw Fertile Ground, another land. Then let's untap, tap, Story Circle. And that gives us even another layer of protection. But I don't think there's a card in Merfolk that gets our opponent out of this. Not in the main, for sure. So we have a lot of power and toughness on the battlefield. And we are down to 19 cards in our deck. So we're going to choose blue with Story Circle. Draw even more cards. Our opponent's playing pretty slowly. They're down to under 14 minutes. And we're at almost 20. Alright. Let's go to combat. Get in with our not summoning sick angels. So I think we got this locked up. Opponent drops to 4, and we just pass. Discard a bunch of lands. I would be literally amazed if our opponent found a way to win from here. Like, even if their hand was all Dismembers and Vapor Snags, I still don't think that would do it. So say they had Dismember, 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 Vapor Snag. That would be all their mana to get rid of our stuff, and then they could attack, and we would Story Circle. Opponent passes. Well, we're just going to do the humane thing and just attack our opponent with our angels for the win. Starfield gets back Ivory Mask. Ugh. So we're going to draw cards from that. And then we'll just swing with our 8 angels. And that should do it. Blue Fog. Alright, they Vapor Snake an angel. Instead of dealing 40, we only deal 36. How disappointing. Oh, they actually did have a handful of Vapor Snags, and it doesn't matter. So instead of 40, they take 32. Still plenty lethal. Alright, that was a good start. As far as sideboarding, Sphere of Safety comes in. And that might be all. Ivory Mask doesn't seem relevant. So I guess we can go up another... We could bring in Nevermore. But what does that hit? What is the spell that's going to ruin us? Return a permanent, I guess, is maybe their best bet. Something that bounces, like Echoing Truth. I don't even know if they even play that, though. I don't think they have it. Alright, we'll bring in a Story Circle, I guess. I think their hope is to either be fast or to play enough counters to win that way. But I would be surprised, looking at Merfolk lists, if they actually have a way to deal with Sphere of Safety or Ghostly Prison. Alright. This hand is pretty reasonable on the draw. Get a bit of ramp, got a Blind Obedience to gain some life. Maybe slow our opponent down a little. Island, and opponent... No Ether Vial. Well, Terramorphic Expanse, go. There's a Ghostly Prison. That's a good one. Island for our opponent. Is it Lord time? Lord of Atlantis. Well, let's crack Terramorphic. And we'll just get a Plains here, I think. Let's just Forest and Blind Obedience. Because Spell Pierce is one of the cards they could have. Also negates... Those are the main answers I picture our opponent having. Spreading Seas on our Forest. Alright. I'm going to give the team Island Walk. That does mean... That does mean Spell Pierce mana is still available. So we might not actually just slam Ghostly Prison. So let's Forest, Fertile Ground the Forest, and Extort. There's a Spell Pierce. Alright. Well, they spent their Spell Pierce, though. That's the good news. We drained for 1. Pass the turn. So next turn, we probably just start slamming Ghostly Prisons and hope that that's good enough. Doesn't play around Spell Pierce or Negate, but what can you do? There's an Ether Vial. Tapped. Not that that's really relevant. Alright, there's a Mutavault. So this means we're definitely not getting countered. So we take 5, down to 14. But since our opponent already spent their Spell Pierce, let's just Ghostly Prison, no Extort, slow our opponent down a bit. It's going to make it really hard to, like, activate Mutavault and attack with it. Terramorphic, pass the turn. Opponent can start ticking up their Ether Vial. This also puts our opponent in a position where it's going to be challenging to leave up mana. Alright, they just go with Reedry, which is fine. No attacks. So we're going to crack Terramorphic, get a Plains. Ooh, Courser. Well, I think the thing to do here is just Ghostly Prison, Extort, go back up to 15, opponent down to 18, Canopy Vista, pass the turn. So now, I mean, I don't think they have Echoing Truth, which means we're in pretty awesome shape. If they do, that could suddenly make things take a turn. Silvergill draws our opponent a card. I'm a little scared to play Starfield, though, until we get things really locked down. So I'm going to lean towards just, like, playing Courser, extorting with Courser, play a Forest, gain a life, and passing the turn. Because if we animate our ghostly prisons, then things like Vapor Snag, Dismember, all that stuff is suddenly turned on, and that is how we could lose, if they can do that and then start attacking with everything. So we want to wait till we feel very firmly in control of the game before we start animating stuff. Even though it'd be nice to get Fertile Ground back from the graveyard and stuff like that, but... Curse Catcher. I'm just not sure our opponent has the tools to deal with this. I mean, I guess they can keep untapping lands and maybe attack with something, but it just doesn't feel that practical. They really need something more than just flooding the board. And they're on the clock. We have a Courser to make sure we're not drawing lands. Sooner or later, we're going to draw into Sphere of Safety, Sigil, things like that. Opponent passes. Well, play the forest off the top, gain a life. Then let's Fertile Ground, Extort, Story Circle, Extort. I guess we're kind of on the Extort plan. Story Circle on blue, pass the turn. We could use a way to start drawing cards. That would be nice. Vial, ticking up, I assume. And maybe it stays on 2. Alright, ticks up to 3. The other issue for our opponent, they're running out of time. No attacks. There's an Eidolon. Alright, so play the forest, gain a life. Pass the turn. So now, not only do they need to deal with our ghostly prisons, but we can prevent the damage of 4 blue things with Story Circle, and we got an Eidolon to start drawing cards next turn. Alright, Spreading Seas on our plains. Sure. That's annoying. Gives us less white mana for Story Circle. I don't know if it's relevant, but... Opponent passes. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4. Add green. Play Eidolon. Extort. Draw a Arbor Elf. Plains off the top. Ooh, there's another ghostly prison. Well, Arbor Elf. Extort. Pass the turn. There's a Master of Waves. Well, our opponent has a huge board, but none of it matters unless they can get rid of ghostly prisons. So Story Circle isn't really an out anymore because their board is so huge. Opponent passes. Alright, let's ghostly prison. Extort. Draw a Sigil. Forest off the top. And no attacks. I guess we can play Sigil. I think we're dead to, like, Echoing Truth anyway, so there probably isn't that much point in leaving up Story Circle. They have so much damage. If they get rid of the ghostly prisons, they're just going to win. So we might as well play like that's not going to happen, because we're way past the point of Story Circle actually saving us. They have a fairly infinite amount of damage available. They also have a very finite amount of time left, which means I feel pretty good about winning this match. I feel pretty good about winning this game for the 2-0, but even if we somehow lost, I have a hard time imagining it happening quickly enough for our opponent to realistically win a game 3. So, Sigil, I think we can still extort. We have 2 mana to pay for a Spell Pierce. I don't think they would have Mana Leak. Negate gets us either way. Alright, we draw an Arbor Elf, and let's just pass. I think we might actually try to win with Extort triggers. We've done 9 damage so far. Opponent scoops it up. Sweet! Well, we pretty much just hardlocked Merfolk, so that was good.